So what's happening, folks? Mitch Smith here again with another episode of Thursday Night Theory and Ear Training for Guitar. Okay, so tonight I just want to be as quick as I can talking about the minor key. All right, we went through the major scale and all of the chords that are spawned off of each scale degree. In other words, G being 1 if we were in G. And then A being 2, being minor, B being 3, being minor, C being 4, being major, and so on. Okay, so you can look back at that video if you need a refresher on that. But tonight we're going to be doing the same thing, except it's going to be based on a minor key. So I like to start this in A minor because you can follow through alphabetically, and it's just very easy to follow. So first, let's review the minor scale. So, or I should say the natural minor scale, because next week we're going to be talking about the harmonic minor. So we're in A right here. All right, the minor scale is as follows. You can already tell that's kind of got a more somber sound. Right? Okay, so the root note being A, it's going to be an A minor chord. We can do that as a bar chord here, or we can hit this A minor here. Okay? The second chord built off of that, it's going to be a B. That's going to be a diminished chord, okay? So we can play a B diminished a number of ways. This might be the easiest way. And what I'm doing here is just playing the first fret on the first string, first fret on the third string, the second and fourth string open. Because as we talked about the diminished scale slash chord earlier, the any note in that chord can name it. Okay, so we got a B in there as an open string. All right, so A minor, B diminished. All right, the third scale degree is A, B, C. That one's going to be major. And if you remember, we talked a few episodes ago about the relative major and relative minor. So that's your third scale degree. Let's move on up to the fourth. That's going to be D. 1, 2, 3, 4. And we're going to play a D minor. We can bar chord there. We can open string a D minor here. Okay, and I think it was last week we did the 1, 4, 5 in major, minor, and all kinds of things. So that would be your 4 chord in A minor. Okay, so then our 5 chord is going to be A, B, C, D, E. That is also going to be minor. Okay, again, we can play a bar chord off of that. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now, on the 5 chord, in its natural state, according to modal theory, the 5 chord is going to be minor. But many times we will have the 5 chord being major, even though we're in a minor key, because that's the dominant chord. And it might be a 7 that resolves back to 1. Okay? We will talk about that more next week, because next week we're going to be doing the harmonic minor scale, and there's a reason that that 5 chord as a major plays into that harmonic minor scale. Okay, but let's move on. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So our sixth scale degree is going to be major. That's going to be a B, C, D, E, F. A, B, C, D, E, F, G. And then finally 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A. We're back where we started. Okay, so that is all 7 chords spawned off of your degrees of the minor scale in A. But as we like to do on Thursday Night Theory, let's do it in a couple of different keys. But before we do, let's just run through those musically. Let's just kind of go through them and see if they, in order, see if they make a cool sound. So A minor, B diminished, C major, D minor, E. We're going to keep it minor this time because we're moving on into 6 and 7. So let's check it out. Makes a nice little progression, just going straight up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1. So that's kind of neat. Let's go backwards. Let's go 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. See what it does. Yeah, so that's kind of cool. All right, so let's do it in a different key. Let's do it in E this time. So E being 1, F sharp being 2. So to make a F sharp diminished, we're going to use this chord shape. And this note being F sharp is going to name it. Okay, then 3 is going to be G, which is major. A is going to be 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. B is 5. We can play that minor, or we can make it a dominant chord with a B7. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 is going to be C. Seven is going to be D. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Or brings us all the way back to 8, which is E. Okay. So a real common progression in a minor key is 1, 6, 3, 7. So 1 being E minor, 6 being C, 3 being G, 7 being D. We're going to have E minor, C, G, D. And you hear that progression all over the place. So another one, this might be a 1, 5, which would be E minor, and let's make it a dominant. So that's going to be a B7. Or let's go backwards. E, D, C, B. That's A and E. Let's do one more before we stop tonight. Let's do this in, I think D minor might be a good one. And just for fun, let's go backwards with this one. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Your 7th degree is going to be, or an easier way to find that is, if that's the root note, it's also the octave of the lower octave. So we can go 7 here. 8, 7, and that's going to be major. 6 is going to be here. That's going to be major. That's going to be minor. Or if we want to use it as a dominant 5 chord, we're going to make it a 7 chord. Okay, what else? 8, 7, 6, 5, 4 is G. To make a G minor chord, we're going to have to bar it. Or we can just use a G5 and just not play this note. We do not want this note, because if that's that note, it's going to be major. If it's this one, it's going to be minor. So let's just mute it with that finger. And we just have a G5. So D minor. Okay, let's take it on down. 3 is going to be F. And we should know that that's the relative major. The 2 chord's going to be E. If we wanted an E diminished, we could go to the 2nd string 1st fret and 4th string 1st fret. Is that right? No. 2nd string 2nd fret, 4th string 2nd fret. Yeah, there's your diminished. And again, this open E string is part of the chord, and any note in the chord will name it. So that's where we're getting the E from. Also that note. That's it. That brings us all the way down to D. So if we did that and drop D. Now we got something interesting. Nope, nope, nope. Let's do. So that's all the 3 we're going to do on that tonight. I challenge you to go ahead and try to do the other guitar-friendly keys. In this case, in the minor, would be B minor, F sharp minor. That gives us 5. So we've done E, A, D. I would recommend, yes, B and F sharp. And if you want to kind of stay with the cage system and those relative minors, you would also do C sharp minor. And a good thing about that, let's tune back up. Good thing about that, that coincides well with the E string and the B string played open. We can kind of do the outline of the chords of this key. That's kind of a cheater. Yeah, so those three notes give me a diminished. But then those open strings bring a little different flavor in. So that's a little sample of the C sharp minor. So they would give you 6 different keys to play out of. So that is your lesson for tonight on the order, or not the order. You don't really have to play these in any particular order, and in fact I advise you not to. But those are the typical chords you may find if you're in any of those keys. Of course you can have different chords. Of course they don't have to be major or minor. Do not take these lessons wrong. This is just modal theory and what falls into the major scale and the natural minor scale as to what would create those chords. So tune in next week. We're going to talk about the harmonic minor. Perfect example of getting outside of this box using a harmonic minor scale. So that's changing a note. What you'll find in learning this theory is it's not telling you how to play. It explains what you're playing. There's an explanation for every possible thing you could do. Okay, so there's 12 notes here and they're repeated over and over, but we tend to break them down into the scales because we're used to hearing that, and our human ears seem to like those melodies and harmonies that are built that way. But when something different happens, it kind of grabs your ear, and we like that too. But it doesn't mean it's wrong. It just means that it's outside of this box and there is an explanation for it. So tune in next week and let's do that harmonic minor scale. And until then, try to take songs you already know and see how they fit into these explanations, I'll call them. All right, so thanks. Like, subscribe, give me some comments below. Tell me what you'd like to learn. Tell me any corrections if you see any discrepancies in what I'm teaching. So thanks. We'll see you next week.